In this tutorial, I will show you how to use Cricut Design Space to upload images as cut images so that you can cut your stencils to die your disc golf discs. In addition to that, I will show you how to center your stencil so that it is always centered exactly on the Cricut mat. So first things first, let's upload our image. Got lots to choose from. I'm going to choose this goofy little hot dog. And if you were just cutting this as a stencil that you wanted to either paint on, or if you were cutting this as a sticker stencil, just something that you'd want on your car, this would be fine. You could just click Make It, and you'd be good to go, and it would save space automatically by moving it up into the corner. We don't want to do that. We want to have this exactly in the center. We could drag it here, but I can show you with just a few of the shape tools and the pen tool on your Cricut Maker how you can mark the center of the Cricut mat and always have the stencil exactly in the center instead of just eyeballing it. So cancel here. We'll go back to our design space and we're going to add a couple shapes. We're going to add a square, and I'm going to change that to a pen tool so that it's more transparent. And instead of making this 12 inches, the printing space is actually only 11.5 inches. Even though the mat itself is 12-inch square, it only uses 11.5 inches of actual printing or cutting space. It has 1/4 of an inch on each side that it does not use. So we set it to 11.5 by 11.5, and I'm going to drag this image to the back so that when we grab the hot dog we can move that around without grabbing this square. And then something else that I like to do is I like to add a circle shape, and again I change this from a cut to a pen tool, and this will be kind of the imaginary disc that I have to see how the image looks on the disc. Set this to 7 inches, but you can set it to the exact diameter of your disc, and it will be different for drivers or mid-ranges. So I'll just kind of move this somewhere in the center. I'll move it behind the hot dog so I can grab on that easier. And as you can see, I set this image to 7 inches, but it really doesn't fit in this circle quite right. And that's why I like to add the circle, so I can see if my images will go over the flight plate or not. So I'll shrink this hot dog down to 6.5 inches, and as long as this little lock is locked here, the proportions will stay the same. You'll have the same ratio. You won't have to worry about an image getting squeezed or flattened. It'll look good no matter what size you make it. So I'll kind of put that somewhere close to the middle. And now if you want your Cricut Maker to use the pen tool to mark the center, you will add another shape, another circle, and this time I shrink the circle down to as small as you can go. That's 0.014 inches. I change it from a cut to a pen tool, and now it will use the pen tool on your Cricut Maker and draw a very tiny circle, and it'll look just like a dot. And we'll move that to the very center of everything here. One way to do that is to highlight everything by using Control-A or Command-A if you're on a Mac. And then you go to Align and Center. And it takes all of the things that you have highlighted and centers it both vertically and horizontally. So the circle is in the middle of the square, and that tiny, tiny circle is in the middle as well. Now if you look at this hot dog, I don't like it this close to the edge. I'm going to move it over to the right, and you can just use the arrows on your keyboard, or you can grab it with your mouse and move it where you want. And you can still see that little dot that is marking the center of the circle and the square. And this is exactly where I want the hot dog to be on my disc. So now we don't need this larger circle, and so I delete that because I don't want to use Cricut's pen tool to use all of that ink and to just draw a circle. You can leave it there if you want. I'd rather not have it, so I'm going to delete that. I'm not going to delete the square, but I am going to make it small, like that center dot. And this is turning this square into kind of an anchor. You'll see that there. The pen tool will actually draw a tiny square up in the corner of your vinyl. Make sure not to move anything else. Make sure that before your square is shrunk down, that you don't have everything selected, because if you have everything selected and you try to resize the square, it'll resize everything. We don't want to do that. We just want to click on the square and shrink it down to as small as it can be. So now we have everything in the place where it needs to be. Now we need to group it and attach it together. So again, highlight everything without moving anything else. Click on Group, right-click on Group, and click on Attach. And then now Cricut will view this as one image. It will still draw the dot and the square. So this dot will mark the center, the square will just be drawn, and it's used there as an anchor to make sure that everything else uses this to center it on the plate. So now, as you can see, we'll click on Make It. And that little dot is exactly on the 6-inch, both vertical and horizontal. Your hot dog or whatever stencil you have is centered around that. And there is a little square up here that acts as an anchor. You could move this around, but if it's up in the corner, it is exactly placed in the center. And from here you could click Continue and cut your stencil out. In the future, I plan on doing a video to show you how to take a 12-inch sheet that is marked in the center and using a laser to always put it in the center of your disc. I do encourage you to use a full 12-inch sheet. I find that the risk of bleeding goes down significantly than when you try to mask it off with other vinyl or transfer tape or any other type of contact paper, something to prevent bleeds. If you just use the full 12-inch sheet, it'll save you a lot of headache. Well, I hope you found this video helpful if you use a Cricut and if you use Cricut Design Space. I know it's not the best software out there, but I've been able to make it work well, especially since I figured out this trick to always get it placed in the center and marked. I hope you found it useful. If you have, leave a comment letting me know if you know of a better way to do it or a different way to do it. But again, I hope you found this video useful, and I plan on releasing more in the future to share what I've learned along the way. Thanks.